Mr. Chairman, we are live.
All right, thank you. So we will call to order the meeting for the Rec Commission on August 25th, 2020. So we will call the meeting to order. Our next item is consideration of minutes of previous meetings. We don't currently have any, so we will bypass that. Our next item is public input. So I guess, John, I'm assuming we don't have anybody calling in.
No, there is no public members participating.
Okay. So at this point, we will close public input. Now we have the opportunity, if somebody does call in later, we can reopen public, right? Obviously.
Yep.
Okay. All right. The next item, facility and field requests. So we did get to one from the town moderator. Everybody get a chance to take a look at that. Obviously, and we can. Normally, we don't ask for a request of this a form. You know, for a town event, it's not something that really is. I feel necessary. It's great that he filled it out, though. Gives us a little bit more information. So we are looking for. Okay, so it's next Friday from 11:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. for the partial processing of absentee ballots for the September 8th primary election. Okay, because I guess this, now Steve, you might be able to fill us in a little bit more. This is something that he needs to do in public, correct?
Correct. So moderator Brian's been trying to connect. He's having connection issues, so he wanted to be with us this evening, so hopefully he can jump back in. But in a nutshell, due to all the changes because of COVID, they can process the absentee ballots, at least get them checked off prior to the day of the election. But however, in order to do that, we need to do that in a public setting, in case anybody wants to challenge a name. So therefore, we thought the best venue to do it would be inside Town Hall, because we can socially distance if anybody wants to be there. I did work with Troy, and we can have janitorial services clean it before and after from a sanitation standpoint.
Okay.
So I think Frank is now connected with us. I don't know if his audio is working or not.
So I guess my only question to Frank would be the $5,000 deposit that we need, but other than that. I mean, everything else, I mean, obviously the insurance, we're all in the same town, so the insurance isn't an issue. I mean, it's in our pecking order of things, in our bylaws, this is actually number one. So if the town needs to use Talent Hall for any reason, whether it's a warming shelter, you know, town elections, anything of that nature, basically they get first dibs and can basically bump anything that we need.
Yeah, I just wanted us to bring it forward to the rec since we had closed Talent Hall, just to make sure everybody was good with having it open for that cause.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes. You hear us, Frank?
Yeah, I was just able to get on. I'm sorry, there was a problem with my setup somehow.
No problem. I had a
So
little.
Frank, I just gave them a quick overview of the reason we need the room, but if you want to go back through it, that'd be fantastic.
Okay. Am I coming through fine?
Yes.
Okay. So what's going on is, because of the COVID pandemic, the state of New Hampshire has made some significant changes in the way that elections are going to be run. And part of that means that the emphasis is going to be on absentee voting. In order to process absentee voting, we can either do one of two things. We can process some of the ballots outside of the general election setting, meaning other than election day, or we can process some of the absentee ballots, or all of the absentee ballots at the polls. The problem is right now, we are seeing huge numbers, and this is week or 2 weeks or more before the election, of absentee ballots being requested. The issue is that we have to significantly slow the polls if we do it. So the thinking that we want to do is take advantage of the change in state law that will allow us to process the absentee ballots early. Because processing absentee ballots is a public operation, meaning that the public as well as the political parties of the state of New Hampshire have an opportunity to be there and to challenge voters who have submitted absentee ballots. We have to hold it in a public setting. In discussions that I had with members of the Board of Selectmen, and as well as members of the committee that meet weekly in the town to discuss COVID, the feeling was that for spatial separation of the people who would be involved in processing the absentee ballots, as well as the individuals who would be observing that operation, it may make sense if we could do it to hold that type of a operation at Dara Hall.
Makes sense. Now, would you be thinking, would there be a possibility that you needed an additional date, possibly the Monday before the elections as well, or?
No, according to state law, I only have one chance to process absentee ballots. The problem is that I can only process the absentee ballots if I do it on a Friday, as I had sent the submission into request. That means I can only process absentee ballots that would come in all the way up until Thursday. Okay? Any ballots that come in on Friday, Saturday through mail, Monday through the town clerk's office, and it is a holiday and she will have to be open. I cannot process those. The other absentee ballots are going to be given to us at the actual election. And because of that, I'm expecting there'll be a very large number of absentee ballots that will be given to us at the election. So I can't do it multiple days. It's against state law, to answer your question directly.
Okay. I mean, would another day be, I mean, I'm just wondering, so doing it on Monday wouldn't give you anything anyway, because you're not really getting any more in the mail, except for maybe Fridays, right? If you would just set it
Exactly, and maybe Saturday that accumulate or something like that.
Okay.
And it is a holiday weekend, so I'm not sure how much mail is going to be coming in and that type of thing either. Plus the town clerk is leaving town. She's going out of town for the holiday weekend, so she's not available. And I would need her there to do it.
Okay, that makes sense.
So do we just need a motion on it?
Yeah, we need a motion, then we can have some discussion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to accept Mr. Byron's request to use Talent Hall on September 8th from 11 to 3, was it?
It's actually September 4th.
Okay, September 4th from 11:30 a.m. till 3 p.m. for purposes of counting and processing absentee ballots.
A second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Ruggles and a second from Peter. So that opens it up. Any discussion on the motion?
I have one. How many people do you anticipate having to support you to get this through?
You mean that'll be working on this?
Yeah.
From the town
In the
side?
facility with it.
So there has to be at least 3 other people beside myself. So there will probably be myself as moderator, Steve Perry as deputy moderator, Terry Briand, and I think Terry's going to talk to her deputy town clerk to get her there as well. So that would be 4 people, and that's what's required by law. The problem is I don't know how many other people, observers, are going to show up. I'm expecting that the political parties will have some level of people there as well. I don't expect it to be more than 3 or 4 people per political party, and there may be some citizens of town there as well, but they're not involved in any of the operations that I would be doing.
And just one other question. Are you going to require masks for anybody that comes in or?
Yes,
Okay.
Do you believe
masks,
the 4
masks
people
will
you
be,
have is sufficient?
excuse me?
Do you believe the 4 people that you will have present will be sufficient, or do you need more assistance?
I believe it should be sufficient. If I need more assistance, then I'll ask maybe some of the supervisors of the checklist or some of the selectmen to help. In order to work on that, you have to be what's considered an election official, and that's only the supervisor of the checklist, the moderators, the clerks, as well as the selectmen. I believe Mr. Weber has already volunteered.
So I think the only thing I would like to see is we probably just need to put some type of occupancy cap, Steve. We need to put something on the building in order for us to, I mean, not just for them to use, but now that we're going to be using it, because I mean, are we just going to go with half capacity of what building permit allows for, or?
Do that, or we can look at the square footage that's there. We could, figure out what 6-foot distancing would be and count it at that.
Yeah, I mean, I calculated it to be 99 people if we were doing.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get anything anywhere close to that. I mean, if we look at just deliberative that we usually get, I mean, I don't think we get more than 50 people that ever show up to deliberative.
But never say never, right?
Oh, no, it's a whole different world these days. Now, and as I indicated earlier, we've had it set up that we'll clean the facility prior and after.
Yeah. And this is for the primary. This isn't for the election. So the election, I'm sure you'd get a lot more interest, I would assume.
Is it okay to answer, or?
Yep.
Yeah, so the 2 elections that these laws that will allow me to do this apply to are the September 8th primary and the November 3rd general election. The laws sunset after that, those 2 elections. I would expect that there will be a ton more interest, to your point, in the general election rather than the primary right now.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. I'll start with Mr. Bosky,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mr. Ames,
Aye.
Mr. Gannon,
Aye.
Mr. Weber,
Aye.
Mr. Burns,
Aye.
and myself, I'll say aye. So the vote carries 7-0-0. So we'll just need to make sure, Frank, that you get access. I'll contact you and make sure that we can get you in the building. And Steve, you have access to it, right?
Yeah, would you like me to give them the selectman code?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we've been using the same ones for years. I haven't updated them since the COVID, so we're going to be updating everything later anyway.
Okay, Frank, I will send you over the code to the front door and to the alarm.
There's 2 separate codes.
Yes, they are.
Okay, so I'll just need to understand how to, I'm assuming, deactivate the alarm, and I think the front door is probably self-explanatory.
It is. It's just a keypad, and then when you do the alarm, you just put the code in and it hit disarm.
Well, you shouldn't have to hit disarm, right? Just the code.
Okay, they'll read
I can
disarm.
make myself available to help out and leave them down there beforehand. Leave them down there about 11 now to get set up.
Oh, that'd be great, Steve.
I mean, and Frank, just there's nothing else going on in the hall. So obviously, if you want to get in there earlier, and we can bring chairs in the second one so that they're 6 feet apart.
Well, the public notice that I'm going to issue is going to say that the operation will start at noon. But I put down 11:30 so that we could set up the chairs and the table and stuff like that. And spread some chairs out across the floor if there are people that do come in. So I gave it a little bit extra time.
Okay.
You may want
My name's Steve Gannon, and I'll meet you down there at 11:30 on the 4th.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Steve.
Sounds good. Thank you, Frank.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, guys. And I'll leave the meeting and good luck to everybody.
All right, same to you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Frank. Be well.
All right. I don't believe we had any other facility and field requests.
We did. It was from the school.
Oh, that's right. From Beth for I didn't really look.
It was a use of Dara during the middle school soccer season from, I think, 2 o'clock to 5 or 2:30 to 5:30 or
2:30 to 5:30 each day. From
Yeah.
September 9th through October 30th. I mean, again, that's been a standing. I didn't know middle schools were going to be going ahead with their seasons, which is good.
Yeah, it was so close to the meeting that I just was gonna wait to email her back till after tonight. So I'll email her back saying that since it's a standing event, she can just go ahead and use it. We don't have to vote on it, do we?
well, no, we usually do vote on it.
Oh, you do? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Apologies.
Yeah.
So, but Mike, do we?
Yeah.
We normally have a copy of their insurance on file as well, right, from the school system?
I don't think we don't get a copy of the school system. I mean, they're under.
They're completely different insurance than we are.
Yeah, but I think that I want to say, doesn't the town already have it? Like, we've never asked them to give us a copy. We're under the same, like, no, actually, who holds is it Primex that holds it, or is someone else now holding it?
I'm not sure.
The town is Primex.
Yeah, and I think it's the same insurance carrier, both.
All right. So anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve. Back to her email. I'll make a motion to approve Litchfield Middle School for the use of Dara soccer fields for the fall seasons for both girls and boys of dates between September 9th and October 30th from 2:30 to 5:30 each day.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Gannon. The second, I think that was Mike. So for discussion, the only thing I'd throw in there, I'd like to amend the motion to be 2:30 to 5:30 each weekday, not weekends, because traditionally they don't use it on the weekends, but we don't want to block off because that's going to run into a conflict with softball. It's not allowed to use the fields on Saturdays and Sundays.
Right. I agree. They only need it during the week. There aren't any middle school game activity or practice activity on the weekends.
Steve, how tight are we running? Do I need to do the whole make a motion to amend the motion?
Yeah.
I mean, you can if you choose.
I'm just going to say I'd like to amend the motion. So let's.
I second the amended motion.
Any other discussion? So we're voting on the amended motion of accepting the Litchfield Middle School for Dara soccer, or Dara for the Litchfield Middle School for soccer for the girls and boys fall season, September 9th through October 30th, weekdays from 2:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. All right, we'll do a roll call. Mr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mr. Bosky,
Aye.
Mr. Ames,
Aye.
Mr. Gannon,
Aye.
Mr. Weber,
Aye.
Mr. Burns.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye, so that motion carries 7-0-0. All right, so Andy, if you just want to let her know that she's good to go, and if you wouldn't mind, ask her if there is a possibility of getting a copy of their insurance. Just
Yeah, I can ask her. I'm gonna email her right now.
okay. And they don't have to put us as a named insurer on it. It's just to have a copy of it. I mean, I know that they ask basketball for that every year, right? So the other request, and actually that, and this is something that we'll need to discuss. I don't know if everybody saw the email from basketball. Did you guys get that, or did it just come to me?
Must have just come to you. I don't remember seeing that at all.
Tom from Litchfield basketball. Oh, okay. I don't know why I sent it. Okay. So I'll read it off. The LRBL met and discussed courses of action due to the current restrictions of COVID. The LRBL season would be greatly affected by the restrictions put in place at LMS, CHS, and GMS school gyms that LRBL normally uses. This has made us look at alternative locations to have basketball games. So basically what they're looking to do is they're going to not only have practices at Talent Hall, they're looking to have games at Talent Hall. I think this is going to be an issue, not because of scheduling, because I think, it's something that we would need to accommodate just because that's, this is their season. This is, we always talked about that. 6 groups that are, doing out of season conditioning need to take a back seat to sports that are using it for in season. But my concern is, depending on what the COVID situation is, hosting games in there, I don't think they'd be able to have spectators. I mean, I can't see how people could socially distance, up on that stage, which is the only place that you'd be able to sit and watch it. You probably couldn't have more than a dozen people on that stage. And I don't know how we would regulate telling each team, I'm sorry, you can only bring a half a parent to a game. So I don't know what you guys' thoughts are. I mean, we have some time, but basically they're looking to use the hall Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., which is what they normally use for their practices. But they're also looking for Saturday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sunday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it sounds like they're trying to host all of their rec and travel games at Talent Hall.
So starting what date? I don't.
The beginning of their season, they didn't specify the date.
Are we ready to have outside towns and teams playing in Talent Hall?
All right, are we ready for anybody? I think then we at the last meeting discussed just Town Hall being closed pretty much through the end of the year as nothing's looking to change. Then
Yeah,
revisit it.
You mean we're still looking. We don't even have guidelines to use it at all,
Right.
practice wise, let alone game wise. And until we have some sort of a policy plan, action plan to clean the facility in between games or something, I don't know how we would even think about opening.
I mean, my thought, and again, there's rec and there's travel. They both have challenges. Obviously, travel's a lot more of an issue because you've got, like you said, players coming from other towns, but more importantly, parents coming from other towns. So, I mean, Mike, you know how difficult it is with parking down at Brickyard, and it's that a lot of times, how do you get the word out to those visiting teams as to the expectations?
No, I mean, let me put it this way. At this point, I mean, I think a lot of leagues will take, be at the forefront of figuring out ways to inform other teams. Like, I mean, I've seen the soccer process where, specific instructions are being posted with, field directions and, I mean, they're encouraging, every coach to contact every other coach before games, let them know what the specific restrictions of each town are and everything. I mean, even for soccer, we're doing temperature checks of players as they come in, both teams. You got to do contact tracing at, practices, like who was at a practice, who wasn't, for attendance reasons. I mean, they're all certain, there are definitely certain guidelines going on, and this is for outdoor sports. For indoor sports, I mean, let alone what the people coming in are, you need to instruct them to do. But again, what are our sanitizing policies? I mean, that's really a bigger one. Like, until there's some sort of policy to clean up in between games, before every game, in between games or after games or whenever it is, how do we say, okay, so they can come in and play, but if we're not going to clean in between, or we don't have that in some sort of, like, the league has to do it, how do we even say, yeah, you can use the gym? Or how can the gym be used?
I mean, another thing I think that we need to, in light of everything that's going on with schools reopening, is we have to look at the heating and ventilation system. And,
Correct. The other issue we have with Talent is just, it's such a confined spot. I mean, it'd be different than being in a school gymnasium where you have the bleachers and everything you can separate. When you're inside Talent, you're on top of each other.
So what I'm going to do is I'll reply to him basically, and let him know that we're going to get back to him with a little bit more information. But right now we have to hold off. We don't know what the future of Talent Hall is. But I think what I'd like to do is maybe put together, and I'll do it on a Google Doc and share it with you guys, but maybe just sort of a blanket statement about, just so that we can send, anybody that's interested, we can post it on our website saying, look, basically from now until whenever, there's going to be extremely limited usage of Talent Hall. It's not going to be open to the public except for I don't want to say this not open at all, because we obviously just are letting Frank use it for the ballots. But
just a thought, Andy. What if we also included that if people inquire to use it, they also have to have some sort of a cleaning plan for post usage. I mean, we don't have a town maintenance that takes care of that facility at this, I mean, not on the basis that it would need to be.
Right.
We have one custodian for all town properties right now.
And I mean, and the thing is they're looking to use Talent because they can't use the schools. They're not going to let them use the schools. And like Steve said, those are actually a lot safer than Talent space-wise. Obviously, but so when is soccer season over, Mike?
The first weekend of November.
Okay.
Now we're talking youth, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because one of the things I was going to talk to them about, and if they're interested, we can come back and talk about it as a group, but I want to get your ideas on it first, is saying, hey, if you want to run a rec basketball program, what about thinking about doing it in October and into November and using the outdoor courts? That might be their best option of actually being able to do some form of rec basketball here in town. It would be a lot safer. Obviously, it's not the ideal season. And if all of a sudden, as they say, it magically disappears and COVID's gone in December, they can just have a regular season to be able to use the schools, to be able to use talent. But I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
Now, the only concern is the one that we've already had, where out-of-town people using the facilities in town, and I understand it's a recreational and it's travel, so it's a
I'm
bit
just
different.
talking about,
but that's going to be-
inter-town rec. I'm just talking about in-town rec program, not travel.
Andy, I would agree with letting them use the outdoor courts. You know, it hasn't been a normal season for any of the youth sports that going back to March. So I can't make any promises right now. I don't know what's going to happen.
All right, so we're good with that. And then if they're interested, I'll have them sort of put together a game plan for that. And you know, we're not going to basically tell them, no, you can't use it for this winter season. But unless things change, I can't foresee them being able to do so.
And Andy, I started a FAQ on the webpage that we could put some of these type of questions. You know, can I use Talent Hall for a birthday party? Can I use Talent Hall? You know, what is Talent Hall available for, essentially? And I think it could be something that we could just refer people to.
Yeah.
As well as responding with the, you know, the canned statement of explaining why they cannot.
All right. So I think that's it for requests. New business. So, and I know we don't have an agenda. I do have two things that I know we need to cover. And I know Andy wanted to add the playground down at Dara. And I know you want cameras down there, right, Andy?
Oh, no, there was a couple things. Is it okay to talk about this right now?
Yeah, so we'll be discussing the playgrounds down at Dara.
So one of the moms that was involved with the initial playground mulch and getting the swings put in down there, she just reached out to me the other day and was asking if there was any plan to fix the bearings in the slider thing, and also if there was any plan to get a round of mulch brought in again this year, because we had talked about maintaining it. And I basically told her that we had kind of frozen spending for this year, just, because that's the discussion we had. But I just wanted to throw that out there to you guys and see what thoughts were.
Wasn't one of our other items around the budget? I think that might be the best place to put it. Mulch is usually better a spring item in any case, I think.
Agreed. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, it's already in next year's budget, correct?
Yes. Well, we haven't finalized that budget yet. We still, we'll have to do tonight is take a look at that. There were a couple of items that we wanted to fine tune, correct?
Yeah, it is captured in one of the line items.
Yeah, so I would say basically the most stuff is going to have to wait till next year, and this spring in particular for anything outdoors. I don't see us really spending a lot of money on, like the bearings and things of that nature until now. I know you guys were going to go down and take a look at it. You take it apart.
Yeah, we talked about it. I'll be honest, I've been busy, so I haven't had a chance to do it.
All right.
I took a close look at it. It's not even bearings. I don't know how it works. It would take some significant effort to tear it apart. We could, but it is definitely not moving. You cannot move that thing. It's ground metal to metal. I think originally, didn't we have a quote of like $800 just to replace it?
I think it was for the part, right?
Just for the part, yeah.
I believe so. All right. Anything else on that, Andy? Or I know. What about you? We talked about the tagging down there, and the big thing I wanted to sort of get across is And I really appreciate Kevin jumping on it and getting down there. And that was great. I mean, it was, but if, we can't be monitoring the Facebook to see what's going on in town. And, I don't know if there's a better way, if you guys can, if we can post on that Facebook page that if you have, if you notice something that needs attention in any rec facility or town facility, these are the emails you need to contact these people. Don't just complain about it on a Facebook page. If we don't know it's broken, or if we don't know there's an issue, we can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I'll monitor that and respond to people telling them to the RC at Litchfield, New Hampshire email address for an appropriate response.
Okay.
And along that line too, should we consider buying game cams that we could move around the town? Because I noticed also, I was down measuring the back deck today, and there's some painting on the building as well as the old basketball net. So if we had some game cameras or something that we could move to different locations as required, maybe we'll be able to prevent some of this from happening.
Yeah, and I know Chris.
I know the Conservation Committee bought a pack of 3 game cameras from Tractor Supply, and I think it was like the 3 total $170, and the quality was fantastic.
I have one I can throw up down there just so it comes once in a while. Not going to be a perfect solution.
So Chris, we're only catching a little bit of what you're saying. I don't know if everybody else is hearing it better than I am.
I think Chris said that he has a camera that he's willing to put up down there.
Okay. I mean, I don't want to see people having to put their personal stuff up either. I mean, I think, if we could, Chris, if you can hear us, if you wanted to look at what the conservation got, I mean, a pack of 3 for $100 and something with the amount of money it could save in reparations, that would pay for itself. And just, putting one at the playground, putting one at the basketball courts. And like you said, maybe one behind Talent Hall. Those are our 3 highest traffic areas for that. I think.
Yeah, I can certainly research that and find. I can certainly research that. And find stuff.
Yeah, and that way, I mean, like we said, we do want to spend free spending, but I think that's money well spent. That's short money for big return.
Well, that could potentially save us money
Yeah.
in the long run, not having to do stuff, fix it.
Well, and we still might need to fix it, but if the police have a picture of who's done it, then we're going to get, I mean, think about the vinyl. I don't know how many of you guys were around when that vinyl fence was tagged, the entire length behind Talent Hall. It was tagged, and luckily the people were caught, and their punishment was they spent about 3 weeks down there cleaning up that fence. So, it would have cost us thousands of dollars to replace those fence panels.
I think the presence of cameras or knowing there could be cameras in and around the facilities would also help with that damage.
Yeah, I'll do the research and find out what we can do.
All right.
I have a couple of minutes.
So I had 2 other agenda items I wanted to get through tonight. One is the RFP, and then the other is fine tuning the budget so we can get that to the selectmen. So Troy got back to me on the RFP that we sent, and he sent it to legal. Now, Steve, correct me if I just don't want to overstep here. I can read what legal has sent to us for recommendations for the RFP, correct?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So this is it's fairly short, which is good. It said first you should remove from both RFPs the language, and I'll forward this to you guys. We should remove the language that states if prepayment is required, the Litchfield Recreation Commission may require a performance bond. The town should not agree to prepayment. That's their recommendation. And then she wanted to add the following. It says contracts may be awarded for periods of 1 to 3 years. The successful contractor will be required to enter into a contract with the town of Litchfield. That contract will provide, among other things, that the town may terminate the contract for unsatisfactory performance. Whether the service is satisfactory shall be determined in the sole discretion of the Recreation Commission. Then it says, we can draft the ultimate contract for you. Having a contract the town drafts is much better for the town than just signing a proposal that the contractor drafts. So it sounds like once we do want to award the RFP, we can go through the Mitchell Municipal Group, and they will draft the contract for us, which will probably could save us headaches down the line. Hopefully we won't have it, but so any thoughts on those changes? Andy, I know you've spearheaded it for us.
Yeah, no, I'm on board with all of them. I like when attorneys word stuff the way they like it.
So I'm going to forward that now. I don't know why I keep thinking that these emails are coming to all of us. I got to double check that better.
I received it. Troy sent it out. I think
Oh,
he
he did?
included he included commission.
Okay.
Yeah.
My question,
So-
when it comes to contracts, 1 to 3 years, is that something where we could award a 1 year contract or a 2 year contract with an extension to a third, or do we have to specify 1, 2, 3, or is it? Can we? The way I'm thinking about it is can we go almost year to year in that situation, or is it you have to do a 3 year contract? Well, I guess then we have the clause that we can get out.
If we write a 1 year contract, we're going to have to write a new contract for the following year. And
Yeah,
my belief
okay.
is with the purchasing system would need to go through an RFP. If we write a 3 year contract where we have the ability to terminate that contract, then we don't have to go, we would have to go through an RFP if we terminate that contract and want to do another contract with another, find somebody else as a contractor, you would have to go through that RFP. But if we give a 3 year contract and don't terminate it, then obviously the following years, there's no RFP, there's no additional bids. It's a lot easier budgeting because we already know going into the budget season what the contract would be for the following year, which is one of the nice benefits of it too. So is everybody good with the RFP that we had with the additions that the attorneys have suggested?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so
Yes.
if you don't mind putting those in there and then send that off to Troy and he can get that, mostly we can get that rolling so we can get those numbers back and then adjust our budget as needed, if needed, based on the contract for next year. All right, and then the budget. So we should do a vote. We didn't vote on the RFP before. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the RFP with the changes noted by the town attorney to be released for the bid process.
I second.
Okay, so a motion by myself and a second by Andy Ruggles. Any discussion on this? All right, hearing none. All in favor? We'll go through roll call. Andy,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Steve G,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
and Steve W.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye, so that motion carries 7-0-0. Great, thank you. And then our working budget. So right now we were looking at 97 or 90. I shared here, did this before, but this is different, isn't it? Share. All right, so this is where we left off at our last meeting. I know the highlighted ones we were looking at. I know the big ones would be program expenses, because we were talking about fishing derby, Easter egg hunt, Christmas in Litchfield, senior barbecue, river access event. Did anybody come up with any numbers on those?
Yes. For maintenance, I have spoken to somebody about the rear deck, and I looked at it myself, and I think we could actually just cut it down and use the underpinnings and make an 8x8 deck, and then remove the doors, etc. The rough estimate for that would be about $2,500 for materials. It's a little less, and the particular person we mentioned in town said that if we pay for the materials, he will cover the labor and build the deck for us. We'll refinish it. So my recommendation is cut it down to an 8x8. It's an 8x28 right now. Replace the decking, replace the rails, and then replace the stringers and stairs, and that could all be done for roughly $2,500.
All right, so if we put back deck or talent deck. So now, is that a high estimate for the materials, or in other words, if you're saying
Yeah.
500?
It's a high estimate. Roughly about $25 per square foot, a little bit more for stairs and stuff. And I'm thinking, I don't know if that's Trex or pressure treated at this point. I'm guessing it's pressure treated, so it's a high estimate, but I don't think it'll exceed 2,500.
So now I know Trex is popular for residential decks. Is there a different quality or a different grade for something that's for a little bit more high traffic use?
Yeah, so the way this guy offers his decking is the structure of the deck is the same, and then he offers you wood pressure treated for this price. A little bit more, you could get the Trex, and then there's a third product. I can't think of the name, but it's significantly a lot more. And right now, the difference between pressure treated and Trex is very, very close, where it used to be about a 30% difference. Now I'm thinking it's almost 10% difference. So I would consider going with Trex. And I think the longevity would probably be better than what we have there now. The wood there now isn't rotted. It's just baked to the sun, by the sun, and it's starting to splinter and dry out.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, there's been rock salt applied to it over the years, and ice melt, and that doesn't treat it very well.
I'll ask him about a commercial product that could withstand the abuse.
Were there any other items for maintenance and repairs that we talked about the right?
So guys, just thinking outside the box here, we've had a lot of conversation about, trying to maybe fix the sinks in there, the rear deck. The building could definitely use a paint job. We've discussed about putting up guardrails down by the play structure, moving the gate to get down closer. Does it make sense for us to try to put a warrant article together for all of it and possibly utilize encumbered funds? So therefore, it'd be zero impact to the taxpayer. And we already know that they're not willing to, citizens that at this point aren't willing for a new community center. Does it make sense for us to try to get a lot of these projects done once via a warrant article? I mean, we could even add on engineering for the parking. I think we need to have some engineering in that parking lot. So do we encompass all of this together in one warrant article and, go to the selectmen and say, we'd like to do this, but we'd like to utilize encumbered funds? And that way we're going to get done what we need, and it'll be no impact really to the taxpayer. Yes, they're funds they've been taxed for, but they're just sitting there, and this gets the facility where we need to get it to.
But now, Steve, how do we know if there will be funds to be encumbered?
Well, yeah, I mean, we have to wait and see. So, I mean, it's almost like we have to do a two-pronged approach. We need to put it in the budget, but we also need to request that we'd like to have a warrant article to go do this. You know, and as we get near the end of the year, before the warrant articles are even due, we'll know exactly what funds are encumbered.
So, but my thought is, instead of putting it in the budget, if we put it into a warrant article, could we word the warrant article that our first form of resource would be encumbered funds, and then the remaining would be X amount. So in other words, if we know it's, just throw a number out there, if it's $150,000, then we'll say it's, you know, use $150,000 to do these projects. And then hopefully when the warrant article, we'll know better before the warrant articles are published, how much of that we need to use is, how much of that could be encumbered funds. If the town only has $5 in encumbered funds, or, you know, funds that we can encumber from last year, all of it's going to have to be tax based, right?
Correct. So, I mean, those are things we'll have to look for. I can go to legal and ask how we word that type of warrant. But, you know, we could look at all the projects I said. We also could look structurally at the floor. You know, if we ever wanted to do the floor, then what would need to be done from a structural standpoint. So I think it's a way of getting a lot of these small projects and setting us up for the future at a low cost and trying to carry it within the operating budget.
Okay. I mean, now, we could maybe sit there and look at it and tier the projects. You know, in other words, I could see if we went down there and did what we really needed to do for that building in that area, we're probably talking about $400,000 or $500,000.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get that much. So, I mean, but if we looked at, I mean, how much is it to paint the building, you think?
I would say probably $1,500 for paint.
Yeah, so I mean, you look at that, the engineering for the parking lot, putting up guardrails, the deck in the back. I mean, I think all of it's done. We're probably going to be somewhere, what, $35,000 to $50,000?
Yeah, but if you start talking about the floor,
Not doing the floor, just do a structural analysis of the floor.
okay.
Bring an engineer in and say, okay, if we ever were to lay a rubber floor on top or whatever we'd like to do in the future, what do we need from a support system?
Okay, that sounds like a good idea.
I mean, I think it's just a way of getting it done. Because if we're not going to replace that facility, we really have to stop putting money into it before we lose the facility.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to think of different ways we possibly could do it at the lowest impact to the town.
So I guess what's the risk of if the warrant article fails and we didn't include it in the budget? So are we saying include it in the budget, but it's contingent on the warrant article, or are we kind of out of luck if the town does not approve the warrant article?
Let me do a little research on that, and I'll get back to everybody.
Yeah,
I
that would be
appreciate
my
the
only
thought.
fear about doing a warrant article is that if it got shot down, then we can't go back ever and ask for it. So,
You can after a year.
Yeah, you just can't with your ask. You can go back again and ask.
oh, you can. Okay, I thought it was that no means no thing.
It does. It means no for that year.
So,
Yeah, and I'm there, and we're looking at all these potential warrant articles we may have, and we're looking at tax cap, and I don't know how many of these warrant articles that we're going to want are really going to pass. So I'm fearful, if we put out one to redo the parking lot, this year for Dara, that it may get shot down just because of tax cap issues, because the budget committee won't be able to, be in favor of it because it'll be outside the tax cap. So can we at least get the engineering work done this year so we know in 2022, what needs to be done to put that parking lot in?
So let me ask you this, Steve, because I think if I heard you right, we talked about, and Peter, I think, mentioned it. So put it in a warrant article, and if the warrant article fails, we have it in the budget.
Correct. I'll investigate where the best place to put it and how we can work around all that. And before we have to present on what's the next, the 7th?
But it's my understanding that if it gets voted no in the warrant article, we can't do it that year until it's voted on again.
That's true, but I'm just trying to say I'll get back to everybody before we have to present to the Board of Selectmen our budget. I mean, even at that point, it's not solidified. We can make changes up to the point we submit it as a collected town budget to the budget committee in October. So we can tweak from now to October. So I'd like to do a little research on how we should carry the monies versus just warrant, or do we also carry it within the budget?
Right, but I'm saying it doesn't make sense to have it in both, because if it gets voted down in the warrant article, we can't spend it even if we have it in the budget.
Yeah, but you got to remember it's a bottom line budget. So
Right, but I mean, it's not the money issue. It's like, let's say we put a warrant article in to do the back deck at town. And let's say we put $3,000 into our budget saying, okay, if the warrant article doesn't pass, we have the $3,000. At least this is how I understand it. We still have that $3,000 in the budget to spend, but we can't spend it on a deck because the town.
I think that's accurate. So let me go off and see how we can actually do this. But I just thought it was a way of, getting some things done that we want.
Okay. So field maintenance is the other one that we highlighted. Obviously that we won't have until we have the contract. Now I guess my question is for we talked about the mulch. Where is that in our budget? Was that in our building repairs and maintenance? That wasn't in building repairs. That was.
So isn't there a field repairs line or PR field maintenance?
Right,
No.
that's general.
Tennis nets and playground mulch.
Where do we, it's usually under,
It's right there. PR, it's 740.
That's equipment. Was it under equipment purchase, or was it under equipment repair and maintenance?
No, I think it was under equipment.
Says,
purchase.
Okay.
It's right there. It says tennis nets and playground mulch.
Oh yeah, there it is.
So do we have I know it was like $2,200 for the mulch, correct?
Yeah, last time we got it, but that's because we got a whole truckload. And we got the absolute lowest price, and the distributor we got it from didn't have to handle it. They had it delivered there. But I think a smaller, it'd probably be a little bit more expensive per yard. But I think, what did we talk about? Spending $500 on playground mulch or something like that, and just getting as much as we could, or
Well, and maybe, I think maybe because it's gonna be a lot lower next year as far as the levels, because we didn't do it this year. So maybe we put in 1,000 for it this next year, and then budget a 500 a year, and we can see what 1,000 gets us for mulch, and we can adjust it up or down going forward. But we want to make sure that those levels stay up to where they need to be on the equipment.
yeah. But I mean, we legitimately brought in 100 yards of mulch. It was a lot of mulch that we brought in there. So I think we'll be in good shape if we budget 1,000 for sure.
Okay, and the tennis nets, I believe were $320 last time we bought them. So I'll just put the $1,320 in there for now. And then I'll get one tennis net. And again, if we can rotate those through every year, get a new tennis net every year. We didn't get one this year, but they actually are not in bad shape. But we can rotate through each year. And then if we have a year that we buy one and we don't need one, we can actually store it, and then not budget it until we need to.
So, Andy, I just looked at the master budget, and line item 650 is where the mulch is on the master budget.
It is?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll put this as 57. And I'm kind of embarrassed to say, but I haven't been up to the Justin Bissett Fields lately. What's the condition of the playground with that?
It is still disassembled, and we're going to put it together this fall. We have an individual who already said that he would spare the effort. Plus, we have a high school senior who was going to do his senior project on helping out the baseball construction project.
Do we need mulch for the spring?
We're going to need it. I'm hoping that the highway department, when they mow some of these trees coming up and branches, we can just put it there.
Yeah, but I thought we had to have special playground. There's a specific playground mulch that we need to have for safety.
I know there is kid cushion, and it normally has to be certain 36 inches. Andy, you did the research. How deep does it have to be?
Up to the little white lines on the post. Remember that?
I thought for some reason it was a lot.
I mean, you're talking 2 years ago, Steve. That's a tall order for me to remember that.
I thought you were like a lockbox and you remembered everything.
All right, so maybe if we can look at that, if we think that we're going to need to purchase mulch for that as well, we might want to calculate that and just add that in.
Andy, that's a lot smaller area, too.
Right, but we're going to have nothing to start. We're going to have no base.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the height of the structure, which that one's not nearly as tall either.
Can the base be sand? Because we got a boatload of sand across the street from there.
There's
The
actually,
whole town is sand.
Actually, that whole field was sand underneath.
I'm not sure.
I think it's actually the insurance company that would want to weigh in on what you can use for a base, because I know it can't be hard packed like that, and they'll have a problem covering it.
Yeah. All right, so I'll take the playground mulch out of there. And then program expenses, the fishing derby, Easter egg hunt. Peter, do you know if they have any idea? I don't know if you guys have met for Christmas in Litchfield as far as the Easter egg hunt and Christmas in Litchfield, if there's seed money that they would need.
No, they they don't know where things stand for this season. They were still kind of TBD on that, but they do have a remaining balance in the revolving fund, so they will not need seed money for that. For the Easter egg, I think they were looking for maybe $200 to start that. So I'd say maybe 300 in that.
All right, so
I think you originally had that set, Andy, at 1,800, and I think we should be able to cover everything back at the 1,800. The fishing derby, the fish cost a little bit more. I assume next year they'll be even a little bit more pricier. But I think all in all, we should be able to, if we can get 1,800, I think we should be good with 18.
okay. And I think what we can do too with the, I'm going to try and come up with, like I said, a river access event. And I think probably what we can do is once we look at these, that seed money, I think that we can probably, my guess is we can probably do the river access event out of the revolving fund, and do a fundraiser with that event and reimburse the revolving fund. All right, so there will be tweaks to this, but right now we're looking at just over 96,000.
What was our total budget last year, Andy?
I don't know if I have last year's on here.
the approved budget last year was $95,925.
Yeah, so it was 94.7 before, so we're going up a couple $100 each year. So we're within the 1%. I know it was this wasn't a 1% this year we're looking for, but we're looking at very small increases. Again, and it will fall back on what our field maintenance contract comes back at, because I mean that's obviously a huge portion of our budget. And, God knows what's going to happen with that next year. So hopefully we're still in line with what we got. All right, so that was new and old business. Any other business that anybody had for tonight? Okay, so our next meeting will be pretty quick because Tuesday is the 1st, right?
Right.
Now, actually, will we be able to meet that night? That's the night of the primary, Steve.
I don't see any reason why you can't meet.
John, would that be something that would cause an issue with you guys or with approval?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right, so I guess our next meeting will be the night of the primary, which is September 8th.
Andy, what about that email you sent the other day, the proposal that was forwarded to us? What was that all about?
You're gonna have to remind me. It was a couple of days ago. You can't expect me to remember.
You forwarded a proposal for field maintenance.
Oh, that was today. Wasn't that like today? No.
Yes, that was this morning.
Yeah.
And again, that's something I don't think that we can. I think we just need to go through the RFP process for that. Because right now, you know, it's. Let's see what I sent here.
Right. Yeah. No. It was basically an RFP. It was basically something that has to go through an RFP.
Right. And so the one thing I did want to say is I think that contractor did send us an estimated cost to it. So I don't want to make that part of our public record or get it out there because I think it does put them at a disadvantage for the RFP if people have an idea of what they're looking at for contracts. So I think we need to keep that confidential. Allow them to resubmit during the RFP, but we don't want to be sort of tipping their hand, as it were. So I haven't opened it, and
that did remind me. Who talks to Ryan the most? Like, who's the one?
I have on a few occasions.
Yeah.
I talk to him regularly.
There was. I sent around that email last week about we have field markers down at Brickyard, and they were all torn up. They're all pulled out, and we found them in the shed, but we don't know if they were next to the shed and then put in the shed, or if someone from soccer actually just pulled them all up. We're trying to get down to trying to figure out why all of a sudden they aren't in there anymore. And it's more of a general question to him, like, did they pull them up, or was it, are we exploring another possibility?
So I asked him the question. I'm sorry for not putting it back to you. He basically said that, he just heard me. He thought I was referring to the colored bush type markers. He said corner markers should be wherever they were supposed to be. They did not touch those.
Okay. Those are the ones we were talking about. So that's fine. Yeah. So if someone else will pursue down that line of reasoning then. The other thing is like I was at Sawmill on Sunday and it was cut, but and I'm not going to say the trim around the outside, but the trim around all the edges around the wooden fence, which is still part of the field area, the trimming wasn't really done. Like there are large, like very long pieces of weeds just randomly around the posts, around the fence and everything. So some of them look like they haven't been done in weeks, that trimming around there, which they are definitely responsible for. I'm not saying around the other side of the emergency path, but definitely with anything within that field area, even the fencing, that all should be trimmed as part of what they're doing. It was all previously trimmed as part of what the contractors were doing. So, just a follow up to that. So,
I got an email from Jason Brennan as well about, and Stephen, you had mentioned it earlier too. They did take care of us. Is the trimming around at the river access, at the John Bryant River access? It's kind of long, and Jason's going to go down there and take care of it himself, but he was kind of frustrated by it.
So I think we probably should have one person who is the correspondence back into the contractor instead of everybody. I mean, he's been reaching out to me just because of Jeff Lane and baseball. But, I think when we get questions like this, I think we should probably have one person who relays it back to him.
Okay, I'll take care of that. I'll contact him tomorrow and get an answer and send it to everybody. So I think I still have his phone number, so I can text him and email him.
Andy, I'll shoot you over all his contact information.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, anything else? Any other business?
Just one question around that. And to be clear, going forward in the RFPs, we're not separating out that kind of work, right? We decided to go against that and just have it as an all-inclusive field maintenance plus perimeter mowing and trimming. Correct?
I sort of cut out on me. I didn't quite hear all that.
I said, for the RFP, we chose not to break it into two, correct? We went with
Right.
field maintenance as well as perimeter mowing and trimming.
Correct. Well, not just perimeter. Originally, we were looking at doing cutting as one contract, and fertilization, aerating, all the other things is a separate contract. So it wasn't separating the cutting into different areas. It was all cutting and then all other maintenance. So and I know, and Jason Brennan had brought it up in his email. And maybe this is something we talk about with the conservation. Maybe there's a different contract we want to get to with, cutting just the untreated areas in the town. Because and it kind of makes sense. And I think our current contract, they made it really clear too that you don't want to be cutting a nice soccer field with the same mower deck that you just did. All the weeds and stuff around the rocks, and the river access. You don't want to be using the same thing and spreading those weeds. So,
Does the conservation have a contractor that does that, or is it just they don't have anybody
I
else?
believe
I
so.
don't believe.
They do.
Maybe that's something we should work with them. Team up.
All right, I'll look into that and maybe get Kevin involved, because I know the highway department probably has the equipment to easily do that type of stuff, and maybe we can make that part of our budget to pay them.
I think it would make sense to have them take care of river access and also around Sawmill. Tennis courts, so far this year, they have not cut around Sawmill tennis courts. So I know last meeting we talked about that and we thought that somebody had cut it, but it was not the highway department.
Yeah, it's, and I think last year, previously the highway department did do it. But I don't know what happened this year and why not. It's the same thing down into Sawmill, like down in around that emergency path. That's all long, and by the fence is all long. So that's not being covered by the contract right now either. So we think we definitely need to figure out, how to have that better. Either we do split it up and find different bids, or we make sure that we have it all contained under the one.
All right, any other business?
Nope.
Hearing none, I will make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by myself and a second by Andy and Steve, so a second and a third. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, the motion carries to adjourn 7-0-0. All right, thank you very much, guys. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Russ.
Thanks, John.
Thanks all.
Thanks, Ross.
Everyone, be well.
Thanks, Russ. Have a good night.